Hello, goddesses. Welcome to Menopause Live and happy holidays, everyone. Things can start to get a little hectic during the holiday season with events and holiday gift giving and other obligations. Hello, large groups you have to cook for. Today, Dr. Jasmine is going to be joining us, and she is a psychiatrist. She's going to be sharing some items that you can add to your mental peri toolkit. We're very excited about that. And then our brand partner, Dr. Maggie, is going to join us and give us some insight into why women are experiencing these mood swings and stressors during perimenopause and menopause. Also, please excuse my backlight isn't working. So I have the light on up above me and it's creating some kind of like a halo effect. So please ignore that. As always, this session should not be considered medical advice and is being provided for information purposes only. It is not intended to substitute professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please consult with your healthcare provider should you have any questions or concerns. I'm going to invite in our guests right now. I'd love it if you'd share where you're watching from or any questions that you have, because there's usually a bit of a delay. So I see Dr. Jasmine, Dr. Maggie. I see you there, Dr. Maggie. Let me just see. I'm going to invite you in, Dr. Maggie. So let me know. Hi, Dr. Jasmine. And good, this time I see you, Dr. Maggie. Last time I didn't see you on there, so now we're all good. Welcome, ladies. My name is Natasha, and I'm the community manager for Meno Labs. We have our brand partner over here, Dr. Maggie Nay, who's a naturopathic doctor, and our guest, Dr. Jasmine Sani, who is a psychiatrist. Welcome, ladies. What are you drinking today?
Starting off strong with some water.
Dr. Maggie.
I have mushroom coffee elixir. Ooh. And I have my green juice.
And look at you. You've got all this stuff. I've been hearing that mushroom coffee is so good. I need to get on it. I'm just having water right now. I'm joining you, Dr. Jasmine. But I'm wanting to try this mushroom coffee, though. I'm saying now, there are no rules for the holidays. I love traditions more than anyone, but sometimes we can do things differently. And this year I'm actually doing that for Thanksgiving. I'm going to New York and I'm going to go have Indian food for dinner instead of cooking, instead of being at home. So we're trying something new. You're feeling tired, stressed, and overwhelmed. Well, we've got some tips and tricks from our experts today to help you with this holiday season. Dr. Maggie, our focus today is the holiday season. But all women are going to experience some kind of mood changes. And I've heard actually some women, that's the first thing they noticed during perimenopause. What is causing this change for women?
Yeah, actually, over 75% of women report mood changes.
Yes.
And I think just the same amount of women who are having hot flashes and night sweats, the same amount experience mood changes. And it's just not talked enough about, I should say. And a lot of times when women start to experience these symptoms, they don't know it's because of the hormones and the hormonal changes. So it is so important to be aware of this. So I'm so glad we're having this talk today. So during perimenopause, our hormones just fluctuate more erratically. So estrogen in particular has a more erratic flow. It normally follows during our prior to perimenopause. It has a normal rhythm and flow. It follows during peri. It's just a lot more erratic, a lot of ups and downs. And our brains, especially when it comes to mood, happens to really like stable levels of hormone. This is why the PMS period, postpartum, and perimenopause, those are the three key periods of a woman's life when she's really susceptible to mood changes. So what happened is this erratic estrogen actually affects how neurotransmitters are produced. So our serotonin, our dopamine, our norepinephrine can all be affected by fluctuating estrogen levels. And progesterone, a lot of times we don't even ovulate. So ovulation is necessary for our bodies to make progesterone. So sometimes we don't ovulate, sometimes we're not even making progesterone and our bodies are used to seeing it. Progesterone can be very calming to the body, can help quiet that active mind. And so these are all changes happening at once. Our body's not used to it, our minds aren't used to it, our neurotransmitter productions are shifted, and it absolutely affects our mood. So then you're thrown into the holiday season for better, for worse, good stress, bad stress, whatever the holidays means to you, whatever it brings. But when you come in with these more erratic levels of hormones and it's affecting a mood, it can be a different experience than what we used to.
So I have to ask, if women experienced mood changes during PMS, postpartum, can they expect then to experience them during perimenopause? Is that something for them to be looking out for?
I wouldn't say you have to expect it, but 100%
Okay.
we do know that women who have had PMS, who have postpartum depression, who've had that, are at higher risk of developing mood disorders during perimenopause. So I don't want to say, oh, you're going to get it.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important both for doctors and for women alike to know that if they've had that in the past, they need to be more proactive to look out for it. It doesn't mean it's going to happen, but you need to be aware of that.
Thank you. Dr. Jasmine, what techniques can help women during perimenopause and menopause to get through the stressful situations?
Yeah, so as Dr. Maggie mentioned, there's a lot of hormonal fluctuation during this time. I say just bring it back to the basics. Start by focusing on a balanced diet, staying hydrated, ensuring like a consistent sleep routine that can proactively prevent a lot of mood swings and just naturally reduce stress. So for some very practical techniques that can help, I recommend breathing exercises. So box breathing in particular, and that is where you breathe for a count, hold for the same count, exhale for the same count, and hold again. So they're all equal counts. You pick a number, say the number 4, breathe in for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and then hold again for 4. That can really make a big difference. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which reduces stress rather quickly. And then engaging in regular physical activity. So walking, yoga, even light strength training, that boosts mood, energy, and it reduces anxiety symptoms. Taking some time for mindfulness, meditation, that can really help women stay grounded, develop some resilience in stressful moments.
Great tips. Dr. Jasmine, how can women know when it's time to meet with a therapist? I mean, we have all these tools now, which are really great, but at some point, maybe you do need to meet with a therapist. And how do you know when that's time?
That's a great question. So really it comes down to whether the stress, the mood swings, and the changes in your emotional well-being, when that starts to really interfere with your day-to-day functioning or your relationships. So when you notice like, okay, I'm not performing as well at work because like the anxiety has now escalated, or I'm like irritable with family members, with my partner, with kids, I'm a little bit more on edge, starting to seep into like different domains of your life, that's probably a good signal to think about getting some extra support. Just like prolonged periods of sadness, anxiety, irritability, feeling overwhelmed, and that's not improving with lifestyle changes. A therapist can really help navigate the emotional changes, especially when they're tied to hormonal shifts, because that can often make reactions a lot more intense or pronounced and unexpected.
Yeah. So, how can women find a therapist? I know it's something we're going to talk about a little later, that people are getting more comfortable with this, but people aren't always talking about, referrals and all of that.
Right. So if you're connected with a primary care doctor or a OB/GYN, that's a really good starting place to be able to get some recommendations. They have like obviously their own network, and that's a good starting point. If you are browsing like the internet, Psychology Today, that's a pretty good resource. You're able to kind of filter exactly what you're looking for. Do you have a preference for a male, female, virtual, in person, kind of filter by zip code? Are they in network with your insurance? Do you prefer to be out of network? So you can kind of filter and see what exactly is available in your area. So Psychology Today is a great resource.
Ooh, thank you so much. I'm going to share that on our Mental Life Facebook group for anybody who's wanting to take notes and doesn't have a pen like I do. Dr. Jasmine, can you also set the record straight? What's the difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist? Or is there another way to address these experts now?
That's a great question and something that comes up in my day to day. Psychologists are trained in psychology, so they focus on therapy and behavioral intervention. Psychiatrists are medical doctors, so they can prescribe medication in addition to offering therapy. Psychologists, they hold PsyDs or PhDs. Psychiatrists are medical doctors or MDs. So it depends on if you need that extra component of a medical intervention. Most people find it's actually helpful to work with both, so you can combine like the best of both worlds.
I love that. Have you guys heard about the new trend that's going on right now where people are using AI as a psychologist or a psychiatrist? And what do you guys think about this?
I think it's quite interesting, actually. Like AI as a therapist, it's a hot topic.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and the programs, I mean, they're not therapists in the like traditional sense. I think what I'm seeing is most of them are just designed to help people process emotions or
Mm,
track mood patterns, more
okay.
like data building, right? And
Okay.
then they can guide through like therapeutic exercises, CBT techniques, for instance. So I think it can be a very helpful tool, especially when people need immediate access to resources,
Mhm.
or like people that are early in their understanding of their mental health needs. So I think that's a great starting point. But with that being said, human therapists, I
Yeah.
mean, they bring a level of empathy. They bring some intuition, some adaptability. AI really can't replicate that like human connection and touch. And that's what you want when you're obviously sharing such vulnerable parts of yourself. So I would say like start with some tools to monitor and track changes in your mood. Bring that into the therapy, so that you and your therapist can kind of like use that data to propel the recovery.
Actually, speaking of, do you have a place that you would recommend to track mood? Is there like a website or an app or something that you use or you recommend to your patients?
I generally recommend Headspace and Calm to my patients. I think those are two wonderful
Yeah.
apps. They have like a wealth of resources, including like guided like meditation,
Mhm.
visualization techniques, and all of that.
Yeah.
But
I love that.
it can be as simple as putting down
Journal.
Sunday to Saturday. How is my mood today from 1 to 10? What kind of day am I having? What kind of triggers or stressors have been
Yes.
like more pronounced today? And then just using that data week by week.
I love that. Thank you. People used to be hush hush around seeing a psychiatrist, but these days it seems like people are more comfortable with sharing what they've learned from their sessions, which I love. What do you think is making people more comfortable with getting help?
So when I went into the field a decade ago, psychiatry there's quite a bit of stigma around
Yeah.
it. We were not talking about seeing a psychiatrist. We were not talking about being in therapy. I think what's shifted is just more open conversations like the ones we're having today about mental health. Part of it is social media. A lot of it is public figures speaking out about their
Yeah.
own experiences. I mean, just sharing stories in an open forum that reduces stigma and helps people realize they're not alone. They're not the only ones going through this. And I think mental health is now also being recognized as part of your overall health. There used to be such oh, well, I'm getting treatment for a medical condition like asthma or diabetes. Now it's like, oh, how are you feeling? Are there things that are going on in your life that are affecting your health? And we know that the mind and body, the gut, the ovaries, everything is like intertwined and interconnected. So it's really not a sign of weakness anymore. It's more about self-care and
I
growth.
love all that. That's so empowering. Now let's get into the holidays. Dr. Jasmine, what techniques can be used during an overwhelming situation during the holidays? Let's say you're at a family dinner and somebody brings up a topic that you're not comfortable with, and maybe you get a hot flash. I don't know what other kind of reaction you might get, but you get uncomfortable, you start feeling anxious. What can help?
Yeah, so I mean, that's where I really bring in that like mindful breathing technique. I mean, give yourself some grace, pause, like, take a beat and just take a couple of breaths, recenter yourself. What I actually like to do, I like to be proactive and get ahead of like uncomfortable conversations that may come up. You may know that being around certain family members,
Definitely.
some topics are naturally going to make you feel uncomfortable. I would just have that conversation in advance and be like, hey, I know we're seeing each other in the next couple of weeks. I would appreciate it if we didn't discuss like maybe where I'm at with my fertility journey, where I'm at with this,
Yes.
just to like set that boundary early, set the expectation, and then I mean if it still comes up, that's a them problem and not so much like something
Yes.
that you have to take on. So setting boundaries even before the holiday starts, and that's like across the board, whether that means like how many events you're going to attend this year, what is your gift giving budget, how are you going to carve out quiet time for yourself. I mean, setting those boundaries early in the holiday season, that will really help conserve a lot of energy and make you feel more in control in the situation.
Dr. Maggie, how can women take care of their mental health during perimenopause and menopause over the holidays?
Well, I think the best thing we can do is just really make it a priority and be aware of it. And I think if we do that, that is so much. Just say, I'm going into this holiday season prioritizing my mental health. And I'm sorry, I saw balloons go
I
past.
know.
I don't know what that was.
I think let's celebrate.
What did I say?
I think that they're very excited about that response.
Yeah, so prioritize it, everyone. Like, just prioritize it. And be aware of it. It's amazing the new choices you can make and the way you go about each day if you just say, I'm going into this holiday season prioritizing my mental health, because then you will be aware, you'll be more mindful each and every day about how you go about your day, and maybe even be more proactive in instilling some of this self-help, self-care activities just when we're prioritizing it.
Definitely.
So awareness and prioritization, I think you're going to go very far.
Definitely. Dr. Jasmine, how can women fill their cup this holiday season?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's very easy for women to focus on everyone else's needs and really forget to take care of themselves. And so I think this is a really great point to bring up, the ways that you can bring some more positivity to enjoy the holidays. I'm working on this myself, and the major one that I'm starting to recognize is like setting more realistic expectations. I think the holidays come with a lot of pressure to make everything like feel perfect, and you just have to let go of some of that, right? Like focus on the 2 to 3 things that really matter. Don't feel obligated to take on extra work just because it's like tradition's sake, and just setting realistic goals. Like, what can you actually achieve that's going to make you feel grounded and fulfilled? And then what can you kind of leave to the side, because that's not going to be filling your cup. And like little joys, like lighting your favorite candle, like having a cozy night at home, holiday movies, things that you can enjoy without feeling guilty. I even just like try to carve out 10 to 15 minutes each day for myself. And I don't mean like taking an uninterrupted shower or like running errands. I mean, really, truly 10 to 15 minutes for yourself, making that time sacred and intentional. It's like a mini retreat for your brain that you really deserve every day, even if that means parking at your family member's house, sending everyone in and saying, hey, I need a couple of minutes before I'm going to join, and then using that time before you go into a very like rambunctious situation. I think that alone is just going to be able to like fill your cup in small portions.
That's a smart tip. And I have to say, I've made it a priority to focus on my workouts every morning. I wake up, I get that done, but I've never made the time and effort, like you're saying, to give myself 10, 15 minutes by myself, just quiet. And so I think that's
It's hard to do.
It's really hard to do.
But you know what? The minute you start doing it, others around you will recognize and be like, "Oh, that's her time now." And like now, it's just a part of the routine. Like she needs these 15 minutes before she's able to join in, and we're going to respect that. Because the more you're proactive and you advocate for yourself, others around you will recognize that that's your sacred time.
Love that so much. And I'm going to really work on that. I don't like saying the New Year resolution, but it's something I'm going to work on now. And I really want to make it a part of my routine. Dr. Maggie, how can mental health affect sleep and other symptoms during perimenopause? Because it's just kind of tumbleweeds, I guess, and can make everything else a little harder. So how does it affect it?
You're depressed, you feel hopeless, you have ruminating thoughts, that interferes with sleep. Anytime we're anxious, we could have the mental symptoms of the racing minds. It's very hard to shift gears and get into a state where we can fall asleep and stay asleep. And then there's also the physical symptoms of like increased heart rate. I mean, our bodies, if we're anxious or even depressed, like physically, our body doesn't know necessarily we're supposed to be asleep. It's more on alert and needs to, that interferes with our ability to fall asleep and stay asleep. So our nervous system becomes more dysregulated when we go through the menopause transition. It just does. So we have things more like anxiety, racing thoughts, depression, and it can absolutely interfere with sleep. That's independent of night sweats and hot flashes that can interfere with sleep. And the to-do list, right? So there is so much going on. But so anything that affects basically our ability to feel calm and centered and safe can interfere with our ability to fall asleep and stay asleep. Which is why all this work is just so important, right? The breath work, the priorities, the self-care, because it all affects sleep. It sure does. And then our sleep affects our mood. Like if we're not sleeping, it affects everything else.
Yeah, so true. Dr. Maggie, is there a certain type of exercise that helps with stress? Yoga versus cardio? Because I know that we say that helps with stress, but is there a particular one that we should be doing?
I think it's individualized. We know there's tremendous amount of studies that both aerobic exercise and more of the yoga, mindfulness exercises can be good for mood. We know that aerobic, increases your heart rate, can release the endorphins, the feel-good hormones. With yoga and more restorative exercise, there's a lot of breathing, connection to the body, and mindfulness. So both can be really good for the body. But I always say, like, just what makes you feel better, and you can trust that, because your body is so much greater, has so much knowledge inside of it, more than whatever study says. Like, how does your body feel? We know when people are overtaxed, overstressed, that sometimes an intense cardio session can be more stressful than for your body and more depleting, and you may not feel as good. So I always say, like, how do you feel after, and use that as a guide. And that can shift as we kind of go through our mental health journey. But yes, both are great. But how do each affect you, and how do you feel? Where do you feel best?
I love that. I feel like through this stage, it's all about listening to your body, and then, deciding how you're going to go with your routines going forward by listening to your body. So I think that's really great.
I see in my practice, I'm sorry to interrupt, but like in my practice, there's so many people coming in with so much knowledge from social media.
Yeah.
And it's so stressful for people, because they don't know, should I have coffee in the morning or protein in the morning, and our morning, and I'm just like, wait, just get back in tune to yourself. Take this as information, and if it's, but how does your body feel? Like, do you feel good? So anyway, yes, I agree. Like, I think sometimes we're taken away with all this information age that we live in, and social media and recommendations, where we are taken out of our bodies and we're following other people's recommendations. So I always want to encourage everyone just to, like, check in with their bodies, and how does it make you feel?
I love
and trust that. There's no greater wisdom than our bodies.
It's true, because be overwhelming with all of this. Is we love empowering with knowledge, but there's just stuff coming from so many different places. So it's good that you said step back and make sure you're doing what's right for your body. So it's a personal choice. Dr. Maggie, in the past you've shared about saying no to things, like in November. How do you feel about women saying no to things during the holidays?
I think it's fabulous. I think it's like one of the greatest actions of self-care. Just say no. And I think if we can just all appreciate this, I think the people with sending out the invitation, like, everyone will understand.
Yes.
It's too much. I think, we're talking now about being more vocal about therapy and mental health. And I think just this goes into it. We can say no, and you don't even need to, like, give an explanation. It's an act of self-care. If we can appreciate that,
Definitely. Ladies, both of you, mental self-care doesn't have to take a long time. What are things that can be done in 5 minutes every day to help women during the holidays?
Oh, well, I'm a huge advocate of movement. So movement feels very empowering to me. I just put on a favorite song that I like, something that's very energizing, and I will just let my body feel loose and enjoy, like, the rhythm. That's a quick 5 minute. If movement is not your thing, I think grabbing, like, a journal, writing down 3 things you're grateful for that day, some things that you may want to, like, be mindful of as you go through the rest of your day. So it really depends on what, again, as Dr. Maggie was saying, what sits well with your body, and what do you feel most attuned to. Mine is movement. So I like being able to dance and enjoy.
Yeah. Dr. Maggie, do you have any?
Yeah, I mean, the breath work. These are things in the moment. Breath work, emotional freedom technique, or tapping, which we did an episode on last year, Natasha. These are things you can do in the moment that help regulate our nervous system. In addition to what Dr. Jasmine said, affirmation, so statements you say to yourself, that can be helpful in a time of hecticness, just to recenter yourself and reground yourself. Visualization, listening to something that's uplifting, if it's like a spiritual text, religious, something funny, just kind of getting yourself out of your headspace. And can be really helpful.
Well, we share affirmations in our Mental Life Facebook group. So if you don't know any, you can go there to check out some of ours and then save some for yourself to have ready for holiday time or anytime you're out on the go. Before we close out, I wanted to ask and start asking questions from the audience. I don't want to forget those, but I wanted to see if we could practice this box breathing, Dr. Jasmine, with everybody. So if we can just kind of do it together,
Yes.
you give the instruction and we'll do that.
Yes, wonderful idea. Okay, so let's choose the number 4. We will inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold again for 4.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And I have to just give a little tip. I do have a Calm Strip sticker that they had, a box breathing sticker that you can put on the back of your phone, on your laptop or something, anything that you'd like to have with you on the go. So I thought that was really cool. I can't show it because it's on the back of my phone right now, but I did want to share that with everyone. I'm just going to go through and see. I saw some questions earlier. So let me just see. That was wonderful. So true. Listen to your bodies. Thank you, sweet Michelle Marie. I love that. Great info, ladies. Thanks for sharing all of this. Dr. Chantal. Insight Timer is great too for meditations and mood tracking. Thank you for sharing that. I'll look into that. Let me write that down. Actually, I don't want to miss this Insight Timer. Let's see, what else is there? Limitless Life with Liz. I help moms going through menopause. Check out my website, lizhudson.com. Thank you for sharing that. And looks like this is just everybody joining. So if you have any questions that you didn't get answered today, we'd like to invite you guys to go to customercare@menolabs.com. Send us an email. We'll get back to you. I want to thank Dr. Jasmine and thank Dr. Maggie for joining me today. I'd love to ask you guys, all the audience members, if you could answer this question in the comments below. How are you staying sane this holiday season? We'd love to be inspired by you. I'd also like to let you know that we will be not having a show in December, so we'll be back in January. I'd love to hear in the comments below or at our Mental Life Facebook group if you guys want to share what topics you'd like us to cover for 2025. So we're really excited about planning for 2025, and so I just want to let you guys share what you guys would be interested in hearing. As always, this session should not be considered medical advice and is being provided for information purposes only. It is not intended to substitute professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please consult with your healthcare provider should you have any questions or concerns. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us in 2024. We've had a great time, and we will see you in 2025. Thank you for joining. Happy holidays. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.